Hello, and welcome to Christianity Daily with Rose Bijoux Ramires. My name is Rose Bijoux Ramires, and you're watching Christianity Daily. Christianity Daily is a Christian program where we will be tackling Christian issues that we face as Christians, be it how to eat as a Christian, how to dress as a Christian, nevertheless, how to walk as Christians. We will be giving advice based on the Bible, of course, because it's a Christian program, on how we can tackle certain issues. So feel free to like my page, Christianity Daily with Rose Bijoux. There's a team of people that will answer to your questions, anything that you may have, or if you have suggestions of topics that we can cover, please feel free to contact us. I am on Twitter as Rose Bijoux Ramires. I'm on Instagram, and we have a YouTube account with Rose Bijoux Ramires as well. There's lots and lots of videos that you can watch. So please subscribe onto our YouTube account with Rose Bijoux Ramires and watch videos that I believe will bless you. There's many topics to cover. So please don't go away. You're watching Christianity Daily. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Christianity Daily with Rose Bijoux. Welcome to this show. Today we will be talking about interpreters. I am an interpreter. I interpret the message in the church from English to Portuguese or French, and from French to English. I have a background in languages that are English, Portuguese, Lingala, Afrikaans, French, Kikongo, a few languages that I don't really speak so well, but these are my main languages. So I am very passionate about interpreting, and I really would like to give advice for people who want to become successful interpreters. I would like to thank God for this opportunity to be able to make this video, because I do believe that all the videos that I've been making have been inspired by God. He laid upon my heart to be able to train people, to coach people, to be able to interpret properly, because the Bible says that Jesus is telling us, go ye into the world and make known amongst the nations what he has done. Go ye into the world and spread the gospel. The gospel of God has to be spread everywhere, and it has to be done in as many languages as possible. So I'm very passionate about people doing it in the right way, so that people can get the correct information, learn about our Jesus, begin to love our God. So that's why I've started these videos, amongst other videos on Christianity Daily. But for the purpose of today's program, we will be focusing on interpreting. The topic of today is for preachers and speakers who are preparing interpreters, or would like to have interpreters in their various churches, or who are organizing events, seminars, and you want people to come and interpret. So things to consider for preachers and speakers when choosing interpreters. Things to consider when choosing interpreters. So, what are these things? You know, being able to interpret is not just about knowing a language. It's more than just knowing a language. I'm sure there's people out there who are very fluent in whatever languages they speak, but they haven't got the skills to be able to interpret. So being bilingual or trilingual does not equate for an effective and good interpreter. To be a good interpreter, it takes practice. As the saying goes, practice makes perfect. So, things to consider when choosing interpreters. Please take heed. This is for anybody who's a church leader or is a company owner, or you'd like to prepare for somebody to be an interpreter. Ensure the interpreter is fluent in both the languages that you will be using. For example, if you'll be using French and English, you need to be able to ensure that the interpreter of your choice can speak both languages, understand both languages fluently. That's point number one. Very, very important, because if you don't know the language, then you've got no business being an interpreter. So make sure that they are fluent in both languages. The second point is ascertain that the interpreter's level of knowledge and skills. You need to make sure where they are with their English or with their French. What is their level? What do they understand? What terminologies do they know? Do they only speak it, or do they read it well? Do they understand it well? What is their level of knowledge? You need to ascertain that when choosing an interpreter, especially when you're choosing them for a big event like a seminar. You've got your seminar topic prepared, so you need to choose an interpreter that you know has got a level of competency, perhaps in that topic area, the topic of your choice. So they need to be able to know the certain terminologies and jargon based on that topic. So what is their level? Is it basic? Is it intermediate? Or is it more advanced? So depending on your topic, depending on your audience in your church, depending on your need in the church or the company, you select your interpreter and must ascertain their level of skill base or knowledge. They need to understand you properly. So as a preacher or as a company director or the person organizing this seminar, for the purposes of having the interpreter, you need to be able to speak in short thought groups. This will enable the interpreter to understand you, assimilate the information, and be able to give as good as they got. If they're not able to understand you, they will not be able to interpret the idea or the thought correctly. So make sure as the preacher, as the main speaker, that you choose to speak in short thought groups. Also, remember to pause at regular intervals in order to be able to aid the interpreter, for them to be able to be given a chance to speak. Remember, they're listening to you, then they're translating in their mind, and then they're feeding back. So you need to be able to pause for them to be able to understand this. Failing to do this will lead to many omissions. So the interpreter will omit quite a lot because they're not able to understand exactly or catch everything that you said. So make sure you pause as well and you give the interpreter time. Avoid insider jargon. For example, if you as a speaker, your knowledge is more in the medical field perhaps, then you need to make sure the interpreter that you are using is familiar with medical terminologies. If they're not, then make sure you go down to earth. You go on the basic level and reiterate everything you say. Perhaps say the words in a much more common layman's term for them to be able to understand. So avoid using insider jargon. Use the jargon that the interpreter is more familiar with. I hope I'm making myself clear so far. This is in order to help ourselves. So, assuming the interpreter that we're talking about is a Christian interpreter, because this is, even though this program is for everybody, is suitable for everybody who's an interpreter, but I'm focusing mostly on interpreters that are Christians for the purposes of Christianity Daily. We're assuming that this interpreter knows the Bible. We're assuming that the interpreter is a born-again Christian, because they are going to be interpreting the Bible. They should be able to know about God and the Bible. All right. Another point is you need to avoid or be aware of telling jokes. Be very, very careful when telling jokes. The same as when using proverbs and idioms. Be very careful as a preacher, because different languages have different sayings. The same thing that you may say in a certain language does not exist in the other language, or is said in a very different way. So when telling jokes, you need to be very careful, because jokes very rarely survive interpretation. Use common jokes. And if you do understand that it's the joke you're saying in French, perhaps it does not exist in English, explain yourself to make your audience understand it, to make your interpreter also very comfortable. For example, I'm going to say this in my mother tongue, well, the African language, which is Lingala. They would say something like, Mokilimbanga ntaba. Now, let me translate this in English. The world is a goat's mouth. It does not exist in English. It doesn't exist. Mokilimbanga ntaba does not exist in direct translation in English. The best way to say it will be, what goes around comes around. Why? Because when a goat chews, the goat's mouth goes around in circles. So he chews and regurgitates, chews and regurgitates. So the saying of Mokilimbanga ntaba, which simply means to say what goes around comes around. But if an interpreter was not familiar with that saying, that idiom in Lingala, they would say the world is like a goat's mouth, which would mean absolutely nothing for the English audience. So you would have lost the meaning. The people would have lost what you were trying to convey to them. So be careful about telling jokes and saying jargons. Be aware of the interpreter's level of comprehension. Okay? Slow down and repeat yourself during the message if needed. Remember, they are listening to you, they're assimilating the information, and they're bringing it out, feeding back to the audience. So give them time. So be aware of the level of comprehension. Slow down if they've not understood something, and repeat yourself. Very important. Remember, if your interpreter does not look good, you as a preacher or speaker don't look good. They're impersonating you. So whatever message they're giving to the audience is your message. If you are not giving them a chance to be good, they're messing up. It means you are messing up. If their message sounds bad, it means your message sounds bad. So your interpreter is as good as you are. Help them to do the best work. Help them to make you look good. You're watching Christianity Daily. I hope these tips have been useful. Use them as preachers. Very, very important. It's not just a session or a program for me to coach interpreters, but also for you as preachers or speakers, because many times we do not pay attention to our interpreters. And if we don't, we are missing the message. Remember, your interpreter is as good as you are. If they look bad, you look bad. I hope I've been useful to somebody. Until next time, be encouraged, be uplifted, and be blessed. Bye-bye.